All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Remarkable Shift Live series show. This is a space where elite professionals and high performing organizations elevate their leadership, amplify their authority, and dominate their industries. I work with thought leaders, industry titans, and corporate executives, and trailblazing intra and entrepreneurs to bridge the gap between expertise and influence, turning high level vision into high impact execution. And we don't just develop leaders around here, we position them as the definitive authority in their industry. And unlike traditional leadership programs and theoretical strategies, I deliver real world, results driven solutions that establish you as the authority in your field and optimize decision making and create lasting market dominance. Why? Because authority isn't given, it is claimed. So if you are ready to command your space, let's go. Hi, everyone. Dr. Vernita White. I go by Dr. V, the Brilliant Solutionist, and I am your host for the Remarkable Shift Live series show. This is our season finale, and I am so excited to talk about your legacy. And we understand that what people will remember about you, that's what we all want to know. What will people remember about us when we are gone? And so this word legacy is thrown around a lot, and it carries like a heavy weight for a lot of people. We're going to really break that down so it's not just this, abstract word. We're going to give you some tangible things that you can do to make sure that your legacy is intact. So I want to just take some pressure off of you and help you to understand that your legacy is not this just grand moment in time. It's not this one big grand gesture, but it is about how you shape your decisions and what you do every single day. So we're going to talk about how to create a legacy plan and how to align it with your daily actions and how that also aligns with your long-term vision. But before we do that, I was watching, TV a little bit, more than I should have. But I always think about like if I'm gonna watch that time, what are some life lessons I can draw from it so it's not a complete, waste of time. And so I was watching the franchise, Real Housewives of Potomac. My sister got me into it, and I haven't watched any of those for a very long time. But I just felt like, let me, get back into it just a little bit. I didn't binge watch everything. But anyway, so one thing that I pulled out from it was Karen Huger, who wanted to talk about her legacy, and she had just turned 60 at that time. So she was like, I have attained fortune and success and things in my community, but what else can I leave, as my legacy? And so she decided to buy a plot of land from her aunt, where I think it was her grandparents, who they have this house that's 104 years old, and she wanted to restore it or renovate it and things like that to turn into a bed and breakfast, or like, kind of a tourist attraction with history in the county where she grew up. And the important thing about that plot of land, I believe, if I heard it correctly, that is a huge plot, and I think multiple family members live on different parts of the property, but it was a former plantation. And so throughout the history, they did all their roots, and they realized that they were connected to slave owners and enslaved people. And so however it happened, they were able to get that plantation for their family. So she was like, well, one side of my family has this legacy that now we own the plantation that I believe it was either the plantation where their ancestors were, or a plantation, either way. So they got it, but she was like, well, what can I contribute to this? And she wanted to restore 104-year-old home of, I think it was her grandparents, I believe. So think about that. She wanted to put her stamp on what her legacy could be, even though she's already quote unquote successful. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be always what you leave behind, but that is a thing to do, right? So of course it's like twofold. Those are the things that you do every day, decisions that you make every day, that starts building your legacy. But what a way to memorialize your legacy in that way, something that can be passed down or something that can be, set in place for people to remember the good work that you've done. And then look, just like I did, has a whole story behind it. And sometimes you may think, like, oh my gosh, this whole grand gesture. But I heard this story from Donald Miller. Now, I don't know if he was talking about his son or it was the interviewer, but I was watching a conversation that he was having with someone. And he said it was during the time of the Olympics where he was watching with his son, or maybe the person was watching with their son. I can remember, but they were watching Michael Phelps, and we'll say it was Don and his son, Donald Miller and his son. And Don was saying, like, oh my gosh, look at Michael Phelps. He's like the greatest swimmer of all times, and this, that, and the other. And his son was like, no, he's not. And he named some kid in his, little elementary class, and he was like, such and such is the greatest swimmer. And his dad was like, why would you even say that? He says, because they can swim to the other side of the lake without stopping. And so in his mind, his son's mind, that person was the greatest swimmer of all time because they can do something that no other kid could do. So in Donald Miller's perspective, legacy is what Michael Phelps left as being the greatest swimmer of all time. But in his son's perspective, it was that kid in that moment. And I wanted to share that with you to say that legacy is all about your perspective. So you may not find the cure to cancer, but what can you do in your world that could leave a lasting impact from that perspective of, the influence that you are building and the impact that you have. So hopefully that those two stories take some pressure off of you when we're talking about legacy. So we are understanding that legacy isn't just about wealth or accomplishments. Now, don't get this confused. It would be more beneficial to set your family up or someone that up, give them a stepping stone, financially if you can, but it's not always about that, right? But it is about the impact because wealth can go, buildings and things can get torn down, but the impact that you leave, that doesn't go away. That cannot be destroyed because once it's there, it's like, it's my, I benefit from this impact and you can't take that away from me. It's the experience. So you have to think about how you want to touch lives while you're here on this planet. And your planet could be your circle or your sphere of influence, even though it may not be worldwide like some people we see, but it's still, your world. So we're going to explore how to make decisions, how to make every decision intentional and meaningful. So the first part that we're going to talk about is understanding what legacy means to you. And remember, just like I say all the time, you have to filter everything I'm going to say through your own personal vision for your life. None of it matters if you just sit here and listen to these steps and it's just like abstract. You have to connect with it and it has to be tied to something tangible as it relates to you for you to get the most impact out of this and the most benefit. So what does legacy mean to you? I gave you the example of what Karen Huger did or is working towards, but that may not be anything, something that you want to do. And that's perfectly fine. You may not, be in a place where you can, leave millions of dollars behind like we see a lot of successful people do. That's not your ministry. That's not your story. And that's not your legacy. So you have to define what it means to you and hold on to that. It is the stories that others tell about your impact. So how are you living your life to where other people are telling your story, not you telling your story? So yes, you get to write your narrative, but it's really more important of how people receive that. And that's what you have to focus on. All right, what am I building so that people will receive what I intend for them to receive, and then they'll talk about it in a way that I wanted this to go and how they perceive it. So you always have to think in terms of how are people seeing you through their lens versus how you are seeing yourself through your lens. So it can be something personal. It can be family values, which is very important. And it can be in a way of mentorship, or it can be in a professional setting, such as business contributions or community impact. If you work with me in one aspect of my business, I talk about having a life plan, and we'll talk more about that. But there are between 5 and about 15 or 18 areas of your life that you can have this massive impact and build a legacy, whether all of them or a few of them. And that's honestly more than what probably 98% of the population does. Now, to think about this is legacy isn't just about what you leave behind, but it's also about the way you live right now. So it's not about someday, but it is about today. You can't just think about this as you're getting older, and you'll hear me say that again. So legacy isn't just, oh, I'll think about this when I turn 60, 70, 80, 90, or so forth and so long. You start making those decisions now and they compound over time. That's how you have to start thinking about legacy. So let's talk about the steps in creating your legacy. Now, this is very high level. And so it's high level for a reason so that you can insert yourself into these steps. And then if you choose to, we can have a deeper conversation about what this actually looks like for your life in a more customizable way. So step one is to define your core values. Even when I was consulting in mathematics and working with districts and universities, I started with core values. And even when I was teaching at the collegiate level, I started with core values because I realized the importance of staying connected, having something to anchor to as you move forward, especially when things get hard and challenging and difficult. So start with your core values. What do you want to be remembered for? And there are a lot of different ways you can identify your core values. You can take quizzes, you can do assessments, and quizzes are assessments, but you know what I mean, personality tests. Or you can just sit there and come up with words that feel good to you or that you align with, and those become your core values. But it's very important to have at least 3 to 5 of those core values. Now, you can have personal core values and professional core values, but I say start with your personal, who you are at your core, because those will be your guideposts in everything that you do. Step 2 is to align your daily actions. So small, consistent actions build your legacy. All of this has to filter. Remember, you have your big vision, and then you have your milestones, which can be like your goals, and then you break those down to what am I doing every day to reach those. A lot of people just set goals or have this big vision, and I've been one of those, and I had to catch myself like, whoa, we don't operate like this. You have this big vision, you have these goals, and it becomes abstract, and like you're doing like kind of some things, but you're doing busy work that's not aligned to that. You have to be that laser focused on that. Think about the things that you've accomplished, you know, uh, previously. We could talk about your career or your education. You had this big goal, it was broken down, and you went to class, you took the exams, you did the assignments and the assessments every single day or every week until you start reaching those milestones. And then one day you look up, degree obtained, and you have to approach your life this way. A lot of us do our careers this way, but we don't do the other areas of our lives this way. And then we wonder why we're not accomplishing what we want to accomplishing with a full life. Like you probably are highly accomplished professionally or business wise, but not in the other areas of your life, because your legacy is more than just what you have accomplished professionally or in business. So those daily action steps. So an example is if generosity is at the core, like you want to be known for how generous you can be. You may not be cutting checks for 5 and 6 figures or 7 figures just yet, but what can you do right now? Whether it's donating clothes, whether it's giving, $5, $10 here, or signing up to volunteer at a shelter or anything like that. Something where you're giving, not just your money, but also your time and other resources. You start there. You don't wait until you get wherever you are to then start incorporating that value, that core value. You have to start as small as where you are right now. And it can be as small, like, the Bible says it's the size of a mustard seed. And if you ever looked at a mustard seed, it is weeny, teensy. So that is where you start your actions. And that's what it means by aligning your daily actions with your big vision, and then your goals and milestones, and then all of that compounds into your legacy. The third one is to create a vision for your life. So yes, that is different from core values. How you want your life to be. I think did I do a whole series on that? If not, if you're interested, I'll either look for it or create just a new one, but I'm all for that. This is not just goal setting. And I realize, even with me and some clients that I work with, if you only focus on goal setting, yeah, you may hit some goals and it could be good, but you'll still feel unfulfilled. Or, if it's not anchored into something, it'll get to like, what's the point? And then you'll give up. And then you wonder why you have the same list of goals on your quote unquote vision board year after year after year, because it's not tied to an actual vision for your life. So you have to imagine your ideal future and what kind of relationships, achievements, contributions. I am going to bring this back. I have 4 categories of your life to focus on. And then that kind of narrows it down on how you set up your life for more impactful and meaningful success. One way to do this is to write a letter describing yourself. A lot of people do it by the year, where they start in January and they write their December letter, or they write their January letter so they can read it in December about the things that they would hope to accomplish. So they write it as if it was already so. But you do something like that in your vision, for your vision, and you can break it down into multiple categories of your life and do this overarching thing. But you have to have a plan, like your plan of study when you go to college and get your degree. The map, all the things that you can take, but you laser focus. You only have, I think undergrad was about what, 30, no, 120 credits. So thank you, Jesus. You have 120 credits out of a sea of thousands of credits that are possible. Where are you going to focus your 120 credits on so you can get this type of degree? Now, of course, life isn't scripted just that way, but if you have a plan working towards it, it's much better than just showing up willy-nilly. I know a lot of people, I was one of them, you go in with the plan, you're going to graduate with this, but then you change majors, you do some adjustments, but because you already had an initial plan in place, it wasn't challenging to shift directions and then still, get the outcome that you desire. What if you apply that to your life? Oh, thank you, Jesus. Let's put a pin in that because I like that. All right, so the step number 4 is to make decisions with long-term impact. And so you ask yourself, will this decision bring me closer to or further away from my legacy? And you can't ask yourself that if you don't do the previous steps. And I think a lot of times, a lot of us make these decisions. I've done that. I made a drastic decision about something, not even thinking about the long-term impact. It was just in the moment. But had I paused and took a step back and had my vision in mind, then I would not have made that decision. And it's all good. Thankfully, the Bible, all things work out. However, that doesn't mean you just do things because things will work out. They do work out for the, what I'm saying? It's like, you don't just do things willy-nilly. But there are times, and I'm not saying that you just keep waiting and waiting. You have your vision, you get back into alignment with it, and then and you have peace about it, and you move forward and make that decision because it's aligned with the direction you want to go, versus not even thinking about your big term or long-term vision, the plan that you already set out for your life, and you're just making that decision based off emotions only and not even checking in with your star player yourself, and if you're a believer, Holy Spirit, or looking at the data, you're just on pure emotions. And we learned that those things are not always the best decision. So allowing yourself that moment to take a break, do those steps, and making sure that every single decision that you make is aligning to your vision and a long-term impact. And then step number 5 is to share and inspire. Legacy grows when it is shared. So you can mentor other people, pass down your life lessons, and inspire those around you. Now, there are people who say, like, you don't always share your goals, or, don't ever let everybody know what you're doing. I like to say, and I've heard this, and I say it often because I heard a pastor say it, and I don't know where he got it, but real G's move in silence, like the G in paradigm. And you have to know how to spell paradigm to understand that. That's different than sharing, life lessons and building up your legacy and sharing your thoughts and things like that. I'm all about building your authority at this point and your influence. And you have to put things out there, what you stand on, your beliefs and lessons learned, things that you are wanting to learn, you're working on, things that you failed, all those things are beneficial. And that's all a part of your legacy, which is different than letting everybody know like your plans, because how that can go. But there are some people that especially if you have a big mission, like one of mine is to bankrupt a billion barrel plots to help a billion brilliant people live a life poured out above ground before all that genius and brilliance goes underground. I have to share that, with you all, so that as you see me moving things and doing things, you're like, okay, that is something I get behind to make sure that I live my, most fulfilled and impactful life, not just for myself, but so it can have a ripple effect. Have to share those things so that people can get behind it. So that's what I mean about you want to share and inspire in that way. And, I may not tell everybody all the nitty gritty of the things that I'm doing, because it may not be beneficial to you, or it just may not be your business. But overall, you do need that support and that momentum behind your vision. And, especially if you want to create, any type of legacy. So when I think about the consumer side of my business, I did start out helping people create their life plans or their curriculum for their life. And at first I didn't continue on with it because I was like, well, does anybody really care about this? Or I wasn't getting the type of traction that I wanted. But it was about all about how I was positioning it and packaging it. And no, now I know it's about like helping you with your legacy as it makes sense for you and building your customized, curriculum for your life. And I'll get back into that. And I already have some things set up for it. I just have to re-put it out there. So DM me or comment the word legacy if you are interested in that. And just having a conversation about that, like, hey, Dr. Lee, what could this possibly look like for me? And this is more than just, hey, go follow this plan or just let's set some goals. It's really deeper than that because once you get to a certain age or stage in your life, then you realize that you need to be on this path and you have to stay consistent on this path so that things can compound instead of stopping and starting, stopping and starting and stopping. And you realize that's why you're stuck because you're pushing the brake and the gas at the same time and you realize you're not really moving. So comment the word legacy or DM me legacy if you want to move forward or, just have a conversation or if you want a free resource, we'll just, have a little quick exchange so I'll know which best resource to send you. So let's talk about some common pitfalls and misconceptions about legacy building. One pitfall is thinking that legacy only matters when you get older, and that is not true. It can start as soon as, I believe, like in your teens, and and then you can do it in your 20s. It's not too late, no matter what age you're at, but you don't have to start thinking about legacy. Like even though Karen was like, okay, I'm 61, let me figure out my legacy. She had already started building something way back, from what I can remember. So that was just something else she wanted to add on. And so if you're listening to me and you're in your teens, 20s, or 30s, you can start thinking now. And if you are in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, you can start kind of going back and compiling something that you've already done and seeing if, those are the things you want to amplify for your legacy building so that you can, have a launching pad and still, build upon those. Or if you're like, you know what, I want to shift into something totally different, you can do that. So it's not just about when you're older. And then if you are older, it's not too late for you to start thinking about that. So it always starts with your interactions and making sure that you live each day with intention. Pitfall number 2 is believing that legacy is only about material success. And yes, I know I gave the examples of Karen and building the house or restoring a 104-year-old house on a plantation that is material, but also think about, she can talk about the lessons she's learned or, the progress, and how she's grown as a person, and she can share those insights, with her daughter and her son or, grandchildren. I don't think she has grandchildren yet, but she can share that with her friends, family, and other relatives. And then, she's sharing that on, reality TV. So other people are listening to it and watching her through that process. So that is a way that legacy is also being built. So, you may not ever experience, her, the bed and breakfast, but you can look at those insights that she shared and they can inspire you to do something, similar, in your own life. So let's not always think about like what house am I going to leave or how much money am I going to leave? What cars am I going to leave? What business am I going to grow and pass on and things like that? Those things are great. Let's not overlook those things, but those are not the only ways to build legacy because like I said before, the money can run out, the buildings can burn down, the businesses can go bankrupt, but those insights, wisdom, those values and things like that, those are things that are ever lasting. The last pitfall is solely focusing on the future. Now, again, this is where you have to do this dance because there is legacy building in the future, but you also have to start right now. And that was with those daily actions and those things that compound. So there are things and decisions that you do every single day starting right now. And then as soon as you wake up, Lord willing, tomorrow that you get another chance and you start building that way. And then that way, when you turn around and look back, you can see all those things that you've accomplished. And like I said, right now, a good exercise for you to do is to take a moment of reflection and look back over all of those, things that you built, whether tangible or intangible, and then see that you have already started building your legacy. Now, for some people, legacy might not be so great, but you can always turn it around and shed a positive light on any negative experience that you may have. So don't let that stop you either. And so some real life examples is, like I said, think about I'm not going to share like any actual stories because I want you to get into doing some homework because I realize this. Look around your area, your neighborhood, your city. Look at, street names, high school names, hospital names, buildings and things like that. Something that's local to your area. And think about, how did it get named that way? How was it named after this person? And then go research behind them, and you will find out that it doesn't take that much, to become an iconic figure or build a legacy just within your community, right? It is all about your impact. Now, some people may say, like, yeah, you bought your name for the building, but what did you do to be able to have the resources or to generate the funds to be able to, buy your name on the building if that was the case? But in most cases, people are honored by the works that they've done. So if you start looking at that and start looking at some of the things that they did, you'll realize, like, wait, I can amplify what I'm already doing. And if you want that type of legacy and impact, so look around your community, your local area. Don't even go outside of, let's say like a 30-mile radius. I'm pretty sure that there is a local something that has a name, and go do some research behind that and see how that legacy was built. There's a quote by Shannon Adler that I saw. It says, "Carve your name on hearts, not tombstones. A legacy is etched into the minds of others and the stories they share about you." Yes, we are the authors of our lives. Well, God already designed it, but so we're living it out, but we get to determine kind of what direction we want to go. Yes and no, but you know what I'm saying. Yes, we can do that. We can pin the story of our lives, as they say. However, it is all about how the people are going to read that story and interpret it. So you want to make sure that as you're scripting out your life in a way that you are living in a way like the outcome that you want, but you're showing up that way so that people can perceive that outcome. You're not just, living all willy-nilly in hopes that people, get what you're saying. No, you have to be intentional about what you want people to say about you. And so as we wrap up, I want you to, yes, go do that homework, but I also want you to think about one decision that you can make today to start building your legacy, and comment and share it down below if you want to. And I will make sure that I comment because I do talk back. So that way we can turn this dialogue into a monologue. And be sure to comment or DM me the word legacy. One, if you want to have a conversation. Two, if you need additional resources to help you jumpstart on how to build your legacy that can be customized for you. And I think I have a workbook. If I don't, I can put something together if enough people comment the word legacy down below so that you can start making your legacy decisions today and making sure that today and the next days are counting as we move forward. All right, so thank you so much for listening and learning with me for our season finale of season 1 of the Remarkable Shift live series show. And remember that you are one decision away from making your most remarkable year yet. And that's how legacies are built, day on day, month on top of month, week, month, year, and things like that. So I will see you next week as we kick off our next season of the Remarkable Shift live series show. And before we go, you can finish, but you can log off, and I've given you your charge to leave, but I'm going to make sure I stay on and answer some questions from our private community. People that are coming in, they're subscribing to the show. I'm taking questions from them, and then I'll start opening up my on stage, moving into season 2, depending on how that goes. But I'm going to answer some questions from our private community. So one says, how do I balance living for today while planning for my legacy? And so I would say to that is focus on small and meaningful actions that align with your values, and make sure that every moment is intentional and fulfilling. And I know you're like, every single moment, we'll say majority of the moment. There's a reason why the 80-20 rule exists. But if you're just starting off, you need to be like on it, like 100% of everything, and start building that muscle. And then maybe you can ease back a little bit. And then I always think about it like this. So whether you enrolled in college or not, you have an understanding of what it's like to go to college. And we know that a lot of us went, or people that have gone, like, yeah, we're going to graduate, but you don't graduate the same day you enroll, right? You're like, okay, graduation is going to come, but as soon as you enroll, you take it course by course, class by class, assignment by assignment, semester by semester, year by year, and then you have your goal achieved. The same thing with your vision or your life vision. I believe that you can set something totally ridiculous that you may not reach in your lifetime, and that's totally fine. But what you can control is some of the milestones and goals that you set as it aligned with that. So a practical example to help you understand, because again, the question was, how do I balance living for today while planning for my legacy? Let's say you want to have a charity the size of Feed America. And I think when I researched it, they were like a $5 billion organization, whether that's through private donations or whatever it is, the number that they are working with is about $5 billion. And they didn't start off with that. So the person that started it was back in the 60s, but I think he really got solidified 1979. He didn't start off saying, yes, I want to be the number one charity in the world, maybe secretly, but he didn't start that way. He was working in the soup kitchen, and a mom came to him saying, you know what, there should be a place for people to come who really don't have access to food like that, but they can get, some food that these big companies may want to discard. And they're not like spoiled or rotten or anything, but it's just like if it's past the expiration date, the stores can't have them, but they're still fine. And so from the soup kitchen started a little food bank, and from there it grew to the like one of the top charities in the world, Feed America. So that's what you do. You can set something so ridiculous. You may not see it in your lifetime, but what did he do? He started at the soup kitchen. He started with the food bank, started, locally and building upon there with, maybe let's say, for example, one church he started, then another church, and then it started growing from there. That's how you find that balance. Like I can see where I'm going, but then I'm still going to take those steps, but I'm not going to give up, or I'm not going to, despise small beginnings if I don't think I can reach that, because somebody may, if you get enough momentum and support behind it. And so question number 2 is, what if I don't know what I want my legacy to be? You do have to start by identifying your core values. Like, we were all created with unique tags, talents, abilities, and gifts. And I got that from someone else that's not mine. We were all born that we were all created with that, but we have to tap into it and really sit and reflect and ponder and start getting into action with things. You have to start putting things out there, trying things, testing things out, and see what works with you. You can't, yes, you do reflect, yes, you journal, but none of that is going to matter if you don't go out and test it, because you can journal and be all abstract all day long and it feels really good, but then you'll get punched in the mouth if you just going to show up and think this is the end all to be all, the thing that you wrote down. You have to get out there and test it out. Now, for those of you who believe in Jesus Christ, you have Holy Spirit, and you can ask Holy Spirit to lead and guide you, and just ask straight out, what is it that you want me to do? Sometimes the answers are so explicit and it'll be, oh yeah, that's it. And then other times it'll be, promptings and guidings and leadings that you have to pay attention to. So now you ask for, the insight, and let me see the wisdom, and let me hear and interpret everything that you're showing me, so that I can make sure that I am aligning to how you created me. And then, of course, you will get course corrected. Life will course correct you. God created the universe for it to be a self-correcting, is it mechanism? To be a self-correcting mechanism. So once you get there and do something, you'll see what bites or what flies or what people are attaching to. Now, you do give enough time. You do have to talk to a lot of people and get in front of a lot of different things, for you to get that feedback. And then that's how you keep moving forward. And then you'll know once you've tried it and you stick with it. A lot of times, I think people just stay in their heads and then they don't try anything, or they try something. I'll just say myself, for example, I've tried a lot of things when I started off in the entrepreneurial journey, and it was like, oh man, this isn't working. Let me try this. This isn't working. Let me try this. And it wasn't until this last mentor that I had, it was like, it's not that the things aren't working. You just haven't talked to enough people, and you haven't talked to the right people. And I was like, oh crap. And that's why I made a decision, the last part of 2024 and moving forward, especially this year, that all the things that I truly believed in. I'm not creating anything else. I was going to get behind what I was doing and really go hard on those things and talk to as many people about those things as I can so that I can get the feedback. So again, that was a long way of answering what if I don't know what my legacy is or can be. You have to start something, pick a pony, and ride it, and then life will, and or Holy Spirit will let you know what you need to course correct. Number three, can I change my legacy plans later? Absolutely. And honestly, you should, especially if you haven't gotten to, you know what, this is it, you know, and there will be a time, but there are even people who've gotten to the pinnacle of what they want to be known for, and they've made the shift. But a lot of people, when you find that thing, you ride it out for a long time, or even until till death. I don't mean to be morbid, but you can always change. You ride something, especially if you are not attached to it. You know, it's like I kind of like this direction. Example, I want to be U.S. Secretary of Education. And I wrote that thing like I was going to be, you know, I was strategic and intentional about the things that I was doing. And all of a sudden, it was this massive, like, I don't want to do that, thankfully, because we see what's happening today. But I shifted from that. Not so much, I'm not so, now that I'm looking at it, I'm not so far removed from the things that I did in education or the experiences that I had. It's just transferred into a different avenue, and it's still kind of in the realm of what I'm doing, but it's not. I want to be the U.S. Secretary of Education. I want my legacy to be, you know, all the policies and things that I'm making, you know, on Capitol Hill. That's not it anymore, and it changed, right? So it is okay. And even if you did become U.S. Secretary of Education, if there's still a position available, you may do that for a time, and then God will shift you into doing something else totally different. So let's not get caught up on, I only want to be known for this one thing. And if I don't get this, then that's it. You can start off, I want to be known for this, and then you will transition. Jeff Bezos only started off selling books online, and it turned into to Amazon. Gary Vee, if you know him, you see him as this, you know, this media mogul, but he started selling wine videos on YouTube that nobody watched for his dad wine company. I want to be U.S. Secretary of Education. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm focusing on something else. So you have your own examples of people who shifted. So why not you? All right, so those are the top questions. You know, I kind of synthesized them into the top priority questions. So it ended up being like three, you know, main categories of questions that I put together. So if you want to be part of the private community and well, I want to say send in your questions. Be sure to subscribe to the show at drvernitaglenwhite.com/remarkable shift. And you will, like I said, get the behind the scenes, some insights, and be able to submit any questions that you have, especially more so moving forward into season 2. All right, thank you again for those of you that stayed to this extended version of our season finale, and I will see you in our upcoming season. Bye for now.